Attention passionate Atlanta, Falcons fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC South and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Atlanta Falcons' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Atlanta Falcons fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Atlanta, FALCONS FANS. Let's get to the news now, folks. If you're following the NFL news cycle, you've probably seen some buzz lately about the Atlanta Falcons making a bold move in the ongoing player market, especially regarding their pass rush. And no, this isn't just typical offseason chatter. It's something that could truly shake things up in the NFC South and beyond. Recently, there's been talk about Atlanta potentially adding a key player to bolster their defensive front, and it's got everyone talking, especially because this player is none other than Trey Hendrickson. Yes, you heard right, Trey Hendrickson, the elite pass rusher from the Cincinnati Bengals, could be heading to Atlanta. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Is that even realistic? Cincinnati isn't just going to let him go for nothing. And honestly, that's a very valid point. Hendrickson has been a force on the Bengals' defensive line, consistently generating pressure and sacks, and he's been a critical part of their front four. But the interesting thing is, amid all the offseason whispers, Hendrickson has been given permission to seek a trade, which immediately opens the door for a lot of speculation about where he might end up. So, why would Atlanta be interested in him? Well, the Falcons had a pretty rough year defensively in 2024, especially when it came to stopping the run and rushing the passer. They gave up nearly 25 points per game, which ranked among the worst in the league. And if you've been paying attention, you'll know that the defensive line, particularly the edge rush, was a glaring weakness. Grady Jarrett, who's been a stalwart for years, had only 5 sacks last season, and that's simply not enough for a player of his caliber, especially as he's getting into the later stages of his career. The defense needs a shot in the arm, a game changer that can consistently pressure the quarterback and force turnovers. This is exactly where Hendrickson comes in. The guy is only 31 years old, still in his prime, and last year he recorded 8 sacks for the Bengals. He's a player who can turn the tide of a game with his pass rushing ability. And compare that to Jarrett's numbers, Hendrickson would be a massive upgrade. Steve Bradshaw from TWSN recently made some interesting predictions, suggesting that the Falcons could make this move happen because they desperately need that kind of talent on their line. His argument is that Hendrickson would be a perfect fit, especially considering the Falcons' recent struggles on defense. But here's where things get complicated. The trade market is exactly a seller's paradise right now, especially for a player like Hendrickson. Cincinnati is reportedly asking for a first-round pick in exchange for him, which is a hefty price tag, even for a team like Atlanta that's trying to contend again. The Bengals are also in the middle of negotiations for a potential extension, which means they're not just looking to ship him out for a future pick. They want to keep him, or at least get a fair return if they decide to trade. The question is whether Atlanta is willing to part with that kind of draft capital and immediately commit to a big contract extension for Hendrickson. It's important to remember that Atlanta learned some hard lessons last year when they traded for Matthew Judon from New England, giving up a third-round pick. Judon was a solid addition, but the trade wasn't exactly cheap, and it showed that Atlanta is cautious about giving up too much for aging pass rushers. Hendrickson, while younger and arguably more impactful, still comes with a significant price tag, both in terms of draft capital and salary cap space. This makes the trade seem unlikely, at least for now. And that's the key. Right now, the deal doesn't seem to be on the table. Cincinnati is still working on their extension for Hendrickson, and the asking price is reportedly quite high, with some insiders saying it's ridiculous, mainly because the Bengals want a first-round pick or equivalent value. Unless Cincinnati lowers their demands, it's hard to see the Falcons or any other team pulling the trigger. But if Cincinnati's stance softens and they're willing to negotiate, then maybe, just maybe, this could turn into a real possibility. Now, let's take a step back and look at what this potential move could mean for the Falcons. Adding a player like Hendrickson would give them an immediate upgrade on the edge rush, which is something they desperately need. The Falcons have some promising young players, but they lack that proven pass-rushing presence that can consistently get after the quarterback. Hendrickson's arrival would not only boost the pass rush, but also elevate the entire defense, allowing other players to benefit from the extra attention he's sure to draw. Moreover, this move could send a message to the rest of the NFC South. The Falcons are serious about contending, and they're willing to make bold moves to improve their roster. It could also shake up the division. If Atlanta adds Hendrickson and gets their defense into shape, they might become a formidable force that other teams will have to respect. This could also influence how other NFC South teams approach their offseason strategies, knowing that Atlanta isn't sitting still. But let's not forget the bigger picture. The NFL offseason is always full of surprises, and the trade market can change quickly. If Cincinnati doesn't get the deal they want, and their negotiations stall, Hendrickson might stay put for now. However, if his value drops and the Bengals become more open to trading him, the Falcons could swoop in, especially if they're willing to part with a first-round pick and take on the contract. It's a delicate dance of valuation, money, and team needs, and right now, it's still very much up in the air. So, what does this all mean for the Falcons moving forward? Well, it's clear that they're not just sitting back and waiting. The front office knows they need to improve their pass rush if they want to take the next step toward playoff contention and beyond. Whether or not they land Hendrickson, the message is clear. Atlanta is looking to upgrade and compete at a higher level. They're watching the trade market closely, weighing their options, and preparing for whatever move might give them that extra edge. As fans, we should be excited about the possibilities. The NFL offseason is a time for bold moves, and Atlanta has the resources and the roster flexibility to make something happen. It's also a testament to how serious they are about building a team that can contend not just for a division title, but for a deep playoff run, maybe even a Super Bowl. And Hendrickson, with his talent and experience, could be the piece that finally helps them unlock that potential. Remember, though, this is just the beginning of the conversations. The trade market is fluid, and a lot can change in the coming weeks. But one thing is for sure, the Falcons are definitely in the mix, and their fans should keep their eyes glued to the news. Because if this deal goes through, it could be a game-changer for the franchise, elevating their defense and setting the stage for a very exciting 2025 season. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Atlanta Falcons news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. And now, Atlanta Falcons fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this potential move? Do you think Atlanta should go all in and try to trade for Hendrickson? Or do you believe the cost is just too high? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Falcons. Remember, this offseason is shaping up to be one of the most fascinating in recent memory, and every move could be a piece of the puzzle that turns Atlanta into a true NFC powerhouse. So stay tuned, keep supporting your team, and I'll be back soon with more updates, analysis, and breaking news about the Atlanta Falcons. Thanks for being here, and as always, go Falcons!